Hey everybody, Ryan Grant here and welcome back to the YouTube channel. If you are force feeding yourself trying to bulk, then you have found the perfect video, because in today's video I'm going to go over with you guys 5 really simple, easy to follow steps that is going to help you bulk without force feeding and just make the process so much easier for you. So I don't want to waste your time, so let's get straight into step number 1 out of 5, so you are no longer going to force feed yourself, my friends. So the first step, I've talked about it quite a bit on my channel, so if you're a regular, you'll sort of know about this, but training yourself up, right? What I like to call the training phase. A huge mistake that beginners make is that they rush into their diet, right? They get so excited, and this motivation and this initial excitement because they're starting something new overwhelms them, which basically just sort of deludes them into thinking that they can just go straight into the big stuff. And by the big stuff, I basically mean eating in a calorie surplus and basically, yeah, just eating in a calorie surplus and getting a ridiculous amount of protein in every day and being strict from the get-go, etc, etc. However, this is only inevitably going to lead for you going 1 step forward and 2 steps back. And the reason why is because you haven't built this foundation, right? You haven't learnt the basics, and you haven't, most importantly, trained not just your body, but also your mind up to be able to sustain that consistently in the long term, right? And just let me ask you a quick question. Why on earth would you eat 3,000 calories a day if you haven't mastered eating 2,000 calories consistently for a month every day yet, right? It simply doesn't make sense. And if you do that before that, then you're just going to go 1 step forward and 2 steps back. And then you're just going to end up at square one, and you're not going to be gaining weight, and you're going to be wondering why, right? So in order to train yourself up, what you basically just want to do is slowly but surely, right, increase the amount of protein you're eating every day. And I would highly recommend you start eating at your maintenance calories every day, right? And if you don't necessarily know what your maintenance calories is, it basically just refers to the amount of calories you need to eat to stay at the same weight, because that amount of calories also leaves your body every day, so it just balances it out, right? So what you want to do now is go down to the description. I've linked a calorie calculator there. You just want to find your maintenance calories, so just type all your details in, and then your maintenance calorie number will come up. And you basically just want to get consistent at that first. And what this is going to do, right, is as you slowly increase your calories and your protein, etc, etc, it's basically going to help your stomach expand, right? And I don't mean you're going to get fat, 'cause that's not what happens, but you're basically going to be able to internally stomach more food. Therefore, the more you increase your calories, it's just going to get a lot easier for you to stomach food. Therefore, eventually, it's going to be a lot easier for you to eat in a calorie surplus, and you won't need to force feed yourself. It's literally the exact same thing as trying to bench press 100 kilos or 225 pounds for the Americans, right? If your current bench press is 60 kilos, why on earth would you go straight to 100 kilos without doing 65 kilos, 70 kilos, 75 kilos, etc, 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 and then you can get to the 100 kilos? Because if you go straight from 60 to 100, you're just going to go 1 step forward and get slapped back 2 steps, and you're going to get the bar here, and then because it's so heavy and you haven't trained yourself up, i.e. done 65, 70, 75, etc., you're just going to drop the bar down here, then you're going to be asking your spotter like, help, I can't do it, I can't do it. It's the exact same thing, so you've got to work your way up slowly. So in order to train yourself up for the first couple of weeks, even if you're trying to eat in a surplus right now, to be honest with you, I would cut back down and go back down to maintenance calories and just focus on getting consistent at that and slowly increasing your protein and slowly just increasing the calories as you feel you can eat more, right? So for example, just adding a protein shake in, or adding a bit of bread in your, in a meal, right? Or just adding a little bit more pasta, or adding another egg to your scrambled eggs and toast, for example, right? So that is step 1 out of 5. Don't rush straight into the big stuff. You need to work your way up. Otherwise, you're going to go 1 step forward and 2 steps back. And the main thing we want to do is keep taking 1 step forward. So you need to make sure you build things up slowly. Now moving on to number 2, right? You need to start to develop as well as your... So now moving on to step number 2. Alongside eating in maintenance calories and slowly increasing your protein, you just want to start developing regular eating habits, right? And what I mean by this is forming a routine, right? So you want to start eating your meals at similar times throughout the day. And what this is basically going to do is not only give your life and your day-to-day life more structure and routine, which can obviously help other aspects as well, such as, you know, your work, your family life, your relationships, your social life, etc. But it's also going to help you eat more food, right? The reason why a lot of people find themselves force feeding themselves is because they just try and stuff food at any given moment they can. And the reason why that's not working, and the reason why they force feed themselves in the first place, is because they have no structure. Because they have no structure, their appetite is basically all over the place, because we as humans have a hormone in our bodies called ghrelin. And this hormone basically sends a signal to our brain to tell us to be hungry, which stimulates our appetite and makes us feel hungry, right? And if we're eating at any given time throughout the day, trying to force feed ourselves without any structure, then this ghrelin hormone is not going to know when to send our brain the signal to tell us to be hungry, right? So our appetite is going to be completely messed up throughout the day, and it's going to be so unpredictable and so inconsistent, right? So like if someone eats breakfast at 10 a.m. and then the next day they eat it at 7 a.m., etc., etc., then the body's not going to be able to pick up any patterns, because there is none, because you're so inconsistent. So the more consistent you are with your eating habits, so you eat meal one at a specific time before you go to work, for example, or when you're on your break, you eat meal two, right, for example, the more you're going to be able to work with your body. Your body's going to start to identify the consistent patterns. Therefore, you can use our human biomechanics to your advantage, right? So if you start eating dinner at 5 p.m. every day for a week, you know, give it a few days, and then you're going to start to just feel hungry at 5 p.m., right? This is exactly how the body works. The more predictable you are, the more progression you're going to make, and the better you're going to be, and the healthier you're going to be as well, right? So that is step number 2. Now moving on to step number 3. Be smart about the foods you eat, right? I've mentioned this in a few videos, but a huge misconception that a lot of people make is to eating big to get big, right? I've seen online so many people saying to someone, you got to eat more, man, you got to eat big. And as much as you do have to eat a lot of food, because, you know, that's just how you do things, right? That's not the way to think, because that is honestly going to just leave you to die, right? Not literally die, but in terms of like not make progression, and you're just going to keep force feeding yourself and not get anywhere. So the motto that you need to start to live by when you go about your diet is, you want to eat big, not no, oh my god, you want to eat smart, not big, right? And what I mean by smart is having portions of food that are very high in calorie density. So basically foods that are highly calorific, that don't necessarily have much volume to them. So they're easier to eat, you're not necessarily going to feel as full, and you're eating more calories at the same time, right? It's a win-win scenario. And I'll give you guys a really, really good example of this. So, for example, one of my breakfasts at the start of my bulk, I had eggs and toast, right? I won't go into it. But the toast aspect of side of things, I want to just touch on this. So I used to have 2 bits of toast with my breakfast, and then I switched that to 2 bagels. And as much as that did slightly increase the volume a little bit, that just doubled the calories just like that, right? And the calories doubled, and the volume didn't necessarily change too much, and it was still completely fine. So it's just about how efficient you are with your foods, right? So for example, instead of eating 5% fat lean beef, which is going to be a lot less calories, have 20% fat beef, right? Not only is that fat, you know, healthy for you, but also it's the same volume. But if you have the higher percentage fat, you're going to have more calories, right? So it's all about how smart you can be with your food. And I'll leave a link either in the description or in the cards up there of my full day of eating on average that helped me gain 9 kilos in the last 180 days on my previous bulk, so you can sort of see what I mean by how I ate smart and not big, right? So that is tip number 3. Now moving on to the penultimate tip, so number 4 out of 5, and that is enjoyment, right? So simple to the point where people just overlook it, right? You don't want to be taking things seriously yet, right? The number one most important thing for beginners at the start is consistency. And if you actually enjoy doing something, then being consistent isn't even going to be hard. It's going to be easy, right? So eat foods that you enjoy. You don't have to go down the traditional bodybuilding route of chicken, broccoli, and rice, right? You can still get your protein, your carbs, and that stuff from a lot of different meals, right? Just eat the foods that you enjoy and it will be so much easier. Don't necessarily be too hard on yourself and have a pizza or have a burger every now and then, right? You're bulking as well, so you have this freedom to eat the foods you do want to eat. Just don't go overboard on the shit food and just actually enjoy the process, right? Actually enjoy having the privilege to eat lots of food, because I'll tell you now, I'm cutting right now and I really wish I could eat a shit ton of food, right? So just make sure you enjoy the process. Eat foods that you like, and it's going to make it so much easier for you to stay consistent. So now moving on to tip number 5, so the final one of the day. So this is what to do if you get to a place of force feeding, right? So if you are currently force feeding, I would actually recommend you do this one thing right now. Sorry, I just saw a notification call on my phone of low battery, so just going to take that off. Right, so one of the wait, hold on, let me just adjust the camera again. So one of the first things I would highly recommend you do if you're force feeding yourself right now is take a quote unquote deload, right? So if you haven't heard of the concept deload week, it basically just refers to when advanced lifters or just any lifter takes a certain time off the gym. This can be anywhere from 4 days to 7 days, 7 days ideally, you know, a week off. Basically just to let their body recover and just avoid burnout, right? And I would highly recommend, if you're force feeding yourself, that you do take some time off your calorie surplus. And this is one thing I did midway through my bulk, and it helped me so much. Just reset, right? When you're eating so much food every day consistently, it is going to take a toll on you when you're eating more calories than your body actually needs, right? And you don't want to burn out, because when you burn out, it's like if you go extreme this way, so eating in a calorie surplus every day and not necessarily taking a break at any time, then you're inevitably going to get slingshotted to the other end of the scale, which is just, you know, being inconsistent and trying to force feed yourself and not gaining weight and just not making progress, right? So in order to actually be sustainable, you don't want to be all the way over here, but you just want to be like slightly here, right? So it's not too extreme, but it's sustainable. So what I mean by this is, every now and again, when you start to feel like eating food is getting really tricky and you're getting sort of sick of it, because that can happen at times, I'll be honest, or if you feel like you are force feeding yourself, I would highly recommend you to just take 3 to 4 days off your diet. Just eat whatever you want, just go free with it. And that is going to help you reset and inevitably make progress. Because remember, we want to keep taking one step forward, right? We don't necessarily want to take one step forward and 2 steps back, you know? That's just how it is. So they are basically the 5 tips that I'm confident can help you bulk efficiently without force feeding anymore. If you are still here, thank you very much for watching this video. I really appreciate your time. And if you do want more help beyond these YouTube videos, if you want more tips on bulking and making it easier for you, I actually have a free community where I'm currently coaching men who struggle with weight and muscle gain, by teaching them the fundamentals that have helped me gain over 27 kilos in 4 years. So if you want to be the newest member of this community that has 230 plus people in there, then I'd be absolutely delighted to be able to welcome you into that community. However, if you did enjoy this YouTube video, make sure you drop a thumbs up, leave a comment down below as well if anything stood out to you or if anything has helped you. And if you want to stay around, I upload every Tuesday, Thursday, Sunday, and every Tuesday I'm uploading training videos. So make sure you drop a little subscription down below, because I've got some good content coming up for you guys. Hope this video has been useful. See you later.